Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for Politically Incorrect Knitters. I'm Deplorable Knitter and I'm joined as always by my fabulous co-host Ann Pinkava. Hi Ann.
Hello.
And this week our episode is brought to you by Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. You can get 20% off of your entire purchase by using the code PIKValentine20 for at her website, chickenladyfiberarts.com.
Yeah, you can check out her newsletter for new colors, new ideas. That she has a banned book series of colorways. She has a misheard lyrics series of colorways. You get previews of all of her new stuff, any new yarn bases she may have. She has lots of made in America yarn bases, and also she doesn't spam you. She only puts out, I believe, 2 emails a month. So if you're worried that your inbox is going to get clogged, that no, she's respectful of your time. And you get first info on discounts and other things. And again, our promo code is PIKValentine20 for 20% off your order.
Awesome. So Ann, I know that everybody out there is waiting with bated breath for the Canada hat. Do you have it?
Okay, so I have 2 Canada hats, one that I think I've decided on. So I have that guy.
Very nice.
And yeah, I think this one's the winner.
Okay.
But I also have this one in the DK weight, which I thought looked, see, this is what happens when you ask for advice. This one in particular, I asked my brother's advice, and, I'm like, I pass, I'd say, he's walking through the room. And I'm like, okay, I want you to take a serious look at this pattern and give me a serious opinion. He says, okay. And, he's like, I think the red portions need to be smaller. And I think the white portions at the top, you don't really need that. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I don't like it as much. So thank you for your advice, but also I'll be ignoring it.
That's funny.
But anyways,
sometimes I do that when I ask someone's opinion and they tell me what they truly think. And then I'm like, you know what? That just makes me want to do the other one more. That must be what I was leaning towards anyway.
Like, thank you for making up my mind. It's much easier now. But yeah, so I'm doing this hat itself. It's in worsted weight, and it's actually with Lion brand, I think Woolies, because which is another funny story, that I had to go to Joann's because I didn't have enough of red worsted weight yarn. So I'm walking through and I'm carrying the yarn to the front, and it's that half second of, I didn't check if this yarn is made in China. And I'm like, but it's the only good yarn in the store that would work for this. And then I can't make freedom hats with slave labor. And I look down, made in Turkey. Okay.
Yeah. Although from what I was hearing from Inez Kenter Freedom, that Turkey's really in a bad way too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I mean, not oh, well, but it's just sometimes we got to get on it, America. Where are my wool producers at?
And then back to Chicken Lady. She has made in the USA yarn, but I was in a hurry.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes you need to go to the store and have it in your hand 30 seconds ago. So,
right. And so for the hopefully final version, which I'm knitting up now and getting the pattern all sorted out, I dropped into this, we were driving through this area when I was getting this yarn, and I believe this is Plymouth yarn that I'm knitting up for the last one. Hopefully the last one. But it was at this yarn store I'd never been before. I walk in and it's kind of artsy, and they have their wall of hand-dyed yarn, and and it was so funny. The lady, she directs me, she's like, over in this room, we have our hand-dyed yarn. And over here, we have all of these patterns. And she's like, yeah, and have you heard of Ravelry? And I'm like, yes. And she says, well, because of that, nobody wants paper patterns anymore. So these are all free. And I'm like, oh, thank you. And it was also, so I was going through the yarn selections, and actually the plain Plymouth wool yarn was like in a back corner. And also the wool, it's a little brighter red than I normally want to go for. The other ones, you can kind of see the progression of reds that, you have the mostly acrylic, and this is Cascade 220. And then this one is like much brighter. And I generally go for more of the cranberry. So I'm wandering around the shop and there was another yarn. I'm like, yeah, well, this is a little more expensive, but it has some darker tones in it. And it was literally Ravelry red. And I'm like, the irony is too much here.
Yeah, I think Malbrigo makes that, right? Like,
yes, it was.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've seen it when I've been looking for something myself, because I am a connoisseur of reds. Yes. And I know the struggle of finding the appropriate red for your project.
I know. And it was funny too, because the two ladies who ran the store, they were talking back and forth and they were ordering yarn at the time. And they're like, just casual. I was the only one in the store. And I was there in a little bit digging through all of their selections. And he was like, well, what color do you like? And I'm holding red and white yarn. I'm like, well, I do a lot of this.
When they said, have you heard of Ravelry? You should have said, have you heard of Politically Incorrect Knitters?
That's right.
I'm sure they have not.
Probably not. They were very nice, but it's like I want to walk in and I want to grab my yarn and then I want to go home.
Yeah. Now there's a yarn store near my father's house, and I always want to go there, but I know that we're not on the same page. So even though I really want to go there and just like touch all the yarn, I don't know that I ever will. Because it's not just that we're not on the same page, it's that we're like very outspokenly not on the same page. So that's the difference. So so did you knit anything else? No, I have been. Have you had time?
No, I haven't. I've thought of knitting other things, but I actually had to I have the two hats, but I had another half of the hat done and then torn out. That was the one where there was a white line in between the flag sections. So yeah, I've just been in a pile of red and white yarn trying to get this Canada hat out in time. I was going to move on to, I've been watching the Freedom Convoy instead of the Olympics. It's a much better time. But what have you been working on?
Well, the only thing I have to show. So I was telling Anne, co-op starts on Friday, which is tomorrow for us, because we are in the past. And so I'm teaching two classes. The one is the crochet class where we're making the small figurines. I was informed that if I am going to say what those toys are called, that I need to say it properly if I'm going to, at least be respectful if I'm going to appropriate Japanese culture. So I got that going for me.
I don't know that the Japanese are super sensitive about these issues.
Well, the person who DM'd me was. So
well, okay.
I did not look up how to appropriately say that word of the small knit or crocheted animals and whatnot. So I'm teaching a class of that. We're doing sea creatures. Oh, I didn't bring them up. They're still downstairs in my stuff that's ready to go out by the door. But the first week of classes is always the craziest because it's not, it's just like the first day of classes anywhere. You have to find the rooms where all the classes are. You have to figure out what you need to bring. You don't want to forget anything. It's just, so I'm crazy. And so my crochet class is ready. Well, I should make a whale tonight, but there's a chance that I'm not going to. So I'm kind of, that's on the edge of my radar because the whale is going to be one of the later projects. So if I don't have it tomorrow, it won't be the end of the world. But one thing that I'm trying really hard to get done is my knitting class. So in my knitting class, we're doing different samples. We're doing, they're going to learn how to do a 2x2 rib and a bias knit where you increase and decrease on both sides so that they learn how to do the increases and decreases. It's a moss stitch heart pattern. They're going to learn garter stitch, stockinette, some eyelets. This one where you take your yarn overs and you do something else with them, just to kind of learn, not just knit and purl, but to kind of learn how to combine them to do different things, because I think that a lot of people, like from talking to the kids that were in my knitting class last semester, they didn't get much, like they didn't learn how to cast on. They didn't learn how to, you know, I'm going to include charts for every single one of these, even though technically for like garter stitch and whatever, you don't need a chart, but I want them to start. I know charts can be really scary, so I have to get charts ready, and I have to, so I have 2 more samples to knit up. This one's going to be a checkerboard. And I've always hated doing checkerboards, but it's more about learning how to reach your work and learning how to, that's what I'm trying to teach the kids. So one would think I would have been more prepared, but no, it's the day before and I am doing it now. And yeah, so I've got that going on. So I haven't knit anything. I had hoped to have a new design out, but maybe on Saturday, maybe it'll be ready, but I can't guarantee anything at this point. But I'm excited about my class. I just, you know, I want to do it well, and I want them to be confident. I want them to get enough out of it that they are confident to be like, I feel like I could knit something else without my hand being held. And that's really what I want for them. So hopefully that's what they'll get out of it. And if not, we'll try again next time. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I've been up to my elbows in acrylic, and I'm super blessed because one of my friend's parents passed away, unfortunately, a while ago, and they had a huge yarn stash. And so I was able to use a lot of that yarn for my students. And so that was really nice. And it's funny because they've all got like old price tags on them, and it's like $2. And I'm like, I'd kill for some $2 yarn right about now. Right. Although back in the day, I mean, this one is from Ames. There hasn't been an Ames since I was like 6. So $2 was still a lot back then. Right.
$2 went much farther than it does now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right? Speaking of, the inflation numbers came out today. Did you see what they are? 7.5%. 7.5%. They were saying that that's the highest it's been since '82. Speaking of when I was a kid.
Right.
That was actually before I was born, but not much. But yeah, everybody's, oh, it's okay. It's okay. Build back better. No, this is not building back anything. This is crap, people. I don't have a lot to say about that, Anne. I just wanted to mention how crap it is.
No, and it's really funny. Yesterday I heard it's in the store, and it was, someone was talking like, oh, do you have this item? Like, no, we can't. And they said, is this because of the supply? Is this because the trucker convoy in Canada that, you can't get this? Like, no, that happened a long time before, buddy. Why?
I think that people are oblivious. And I think that also the government is trying to make it, like Trudeau's trying to make it like they're really bad people for doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so that's the impression they want them to have. But I just, build back better. This is killing me. Nothing about anything that we have now is better. You didn't build back anything. You made it all crap.
Dealing with inflation, but I don't know, this week, just the amount of credit that America has lost in the world has just kind of been further hammered home to me now. I mean, we have, this sort of, we're still posturing about the Ukraine, that America is still like, oh yeah, we're being really tough with Putin. He's horrible. And at the same time, they can no longer spell Kiev correctly. Nobody in the Ukraine spells it stupidly or pronounce it Kiev. It is still Kiev, and the Ukrainians say you're being stupid about this. The threat from Russia is not as great as what you're saying. It's not saying it's not there, not saying that Putin's a nice guy, but Putin and Macron from France are they're at the same table. It's a long table. It's a stupidly long table, but they're still sitting down at the same table. Like, and this is the most evil man. Wahaha. It's like, look, again, Putin is not a nice guy. Russia is not necessarily a nice place. but you're looking more at, I would say that Putin is more of an opportunist than anything. And that America is weak right now, so you can play these games. Like there was a thing out of like, oh, well, America has lifted nuclear sanctions on Iran. I hate to say this, but America doesn't have the wherewithal to hold Iran's feet to the fire about nukes. You know, like, oh, well, we let you do this. Ha ha, you weren't going to stop us. You know, it's like, oh, well, there's boots in the ground, but they're temporary. Oh, they're not in Ukraine, they're in Poland. Oh, great. So we could invade Ukraine and then leave billions of dollars of our military spending and then leave so Russia can have that. Wouldn't that be great? And it's terrible. And then even with the Olympics, okay, so I haven't been watching the Olympics. I find it too depressing. But NBC carrying the water for the CCP when it's the opening thing of, well, you know, some people think that China is just a horrible, evil regime, but China thinks of itself as investing in the developing world. Oh, you mean buying up all of the resources and land in South America and in Africa? Well, that's really investing of, you know, buying all of the rare earth minerals in the world. Oh, and also in Afghanistan, which we also left behind. Oh, well, that's just great. And not only that, but, you know, there's the blatant cheating in the Olympics right now. We should pull our guys out. And I love the Olympics. I love the athletic achievement. I love the going for your country. And there are people, I believe it's an Australian snowboarder, and she's doing, you know, outrageous flips that even some of the guys can't do. And there's a woman in the figure skating who can do a quadruple jump, which again is not something that women have been able to do before. So people are achieving things athletically, but you have the South Korean speed skater who was disqualified for an illegal pass. What was illegal? He passed two Chinese speed skaters. Okay, that people are getting disqualified for stupid reasons. They're being put in quarantine camps for stupid reasons and terrible conditions.
Have you seen the picture of the food that they're feeding to these athletes? It's like noodles and some weird ass meat on a bone and like, I don't know, like baked beans or something. Like it was not an athlete's meal. It wasn't a meal I'd feed my family personally, but it's not. They're taking care of top athletes and they're treating them just horrifically. And it's really appalling.
Right.
And that we're just letting them is really appalling.
I know. And also, so South Korean press is going nuts because, and you're saying about mispronouncing foreign words, but in the parade at the beginning of the Olympics, they had, and these are all of the different, you know, cultural costumes of all of the, you know, groups of people in China. And one of them was the Korean, and I believe it's called the hanbok, Hanbok. Anyways, that's the kind of high-waisted dress and it kind of poofs out. But they were basically claiming, and by the way, Korea is our culture too, as in we own you. And it's absolutely sickening. And, you know, hosting the games in a place without snow in some desolate nuclear wasteland, you know, welcome.
No. For people who haven't seen, they were talking about like I don't know what it is, some sort of jump where they go down a giant hill and then they measure how far they go off into the distance before they land.
Yep.
It's this cool looking hill, you know, from the video you saw, it was fine. You get an aerial view. It is surrounded by like this nuclear plant and like this desolate wasteland.
And they're all
this is where they are.
There's not even like a color difference. I'm like, is that the soot? Is that it's shocking. And the entire thing, and you know, I think we mentioned last week about journalists being dragged off on camera. There was, I believe, a Dutch journalist and a Polish journalist. And I
don't think that happened last week. I don't think that happened when we talked about it.
Okay.
because the Olympics had just started or were just starting last week. So
okay, sure. But yeah, it's the entire thing is but we can do this and you can do nothing about it. It's shoving the kid's face in the garbage can and making eye contact with you. Like, you're going to do something about this? Are you going to fight me?
Yeah.
It's just awful, awful behavior.
It is. And we're just letting them. And all of these people who are, you know, all the sponsors are condoning this. And even the people watching it, like, I'm sorry if you love the Olympics. Anne loves the Olympics. And by watching it, by giving it airtime, you're helping this nonsense, unfortunately.
I know.
I feel harsh, but
I know. Like I said, I can't stomach. I haven't been sitting down and watching the games. I can't. And I know other people have. But I have. Can you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get her because she's gonna break down my cheap door. You gonna be nice girls? Are you gonna be not nice girls? But anyways, I was talking with somebody at work and they were sitting down and they're like, okay, well, you know, I know I have a couple friends too. I have one friend who's like really into the Olympics. She'll watch a lot of it and she's been giving me little updates of things happening throughout. But just someone at work, like, yeah, I sat down to watch the Olympics last night and there was nothing to watch. Like, the coverage was even so poor. And
I find that part strange. Like,
I thought it was really strange too. I mean, to a certain extent, I thought the quality of the coverage had gone down with the South Korean Olympics. That, like, it didn't feel, you know, again, I like the Olympics, even for, right. It kind of bums me out, like, again, not watching this one. And I don't know, just the idea of watching this one kind of makes me go, yeah, I can't. Homie, don't play. I can't do this.
Yeah, I was actually at a friend's house and they were watching it. And I wanted to say something. Like, she was telling me that they had gotten a subscription to the Peacock channel, you know, on their smart TV or whatever, and specifically to watch the Olympics. And I wanted to be like, for real? Like, yeah, that feels gross to me, but okay. I mean, you can't make people do what you think they should. But on the other hand, there's some really shady crap going on.
I know. And yeah. I mean, you have other things like, you know, NFL or different streaming services that some people will watch and some people don't, and I get it. But this one, I'm having a really hard time. Oh, and another thing, which I hadn't heard before, so they were talking about, well, isn't it great and inclusive and diverse of China? They're really seeing the error of their ways, having a Uyghur candidate light the torch at the end. Well, isn't that just fantastic? Apparently they had done this before in 2008 when they had the games, and that guy defected to America afterwards, and he hasn't heard from his family since. So you definitely know how wonderful and charming and inclusive China is. They've definitely, yeah.
I'm sure that they're fine. I'm sure that everything's fine.
Everything's wonderful with the, you know, forced organ harvesting and the slave labor and the horrendous abuse of people and the social credit scores and down the line the whole time. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, what about the Berlin Olympics too? And I'm like, no. Okay, everyone knew. Okay, first off, the Berlin Olympics were given to Berlin before the Nazi Party came in power. But also at that point, everyone knew how bad the Nazis were and the things that they were talking about. But at that point, the sort of widespread knowledge of genocide and abuse like hadn't happened yet. We know,
right.
we know what is going on, and we're still showing up. And we are still, and it's like, oh, well, our athletic achievements will overcome all. They are cheating and they are being awful. And then Nancy Pelosi gets up and says, by the way, don't anger our host, because our country does not have the political power to protect its own people right now. That is sick.
Wow, that's creepy. And if you feel that way, if you truly feel that way, then what is wrong with you, Nancy Pelosi, by allowing them to go into that situation?
Yeah, well, she didn't say the last bit out loud, but she did say not to anger China. But yeah.
But she knows it. We all know it, and she knows it. And what is wrong with her? What is wrong with any of these leaders? And I feel this trend of me being angry more and more on the show. I'm hoping that we can have something better to come along, but I don't know, man.
Here, getting the angry part out first. We also have the happy bit, because like I said, I have, again, the Olympics made me too depressed. I'd much rather sit around and watch the trucker convoy. And even with being misrepresented and everything else, and the police coming in and stopping them from gas, the sort of overpowered.
Dude, the police were coming in and taking their personal property. They were taking their gas cans that they had and rounding them up because Trudeau doesn't want them there anymore. And so they're going to allow them to freeze in their trucks because that's humane and fantastic, Trudeau. You're my hero.
Yeah, totally. Like they had firewood they were confiscating this morning. I heard this weird, okay, so the Ottawa tow trucks still will not tow them off, which is awesome. And actually some tow trucks have joined the trucker convoy, which is hilarious.
I did see that too, which is awesome.
But it's all posturing and threatening and who's going to flinch first when the trucker convoy has been, again, entirely peaceful. You have so many people there. There was one guy who tried to drive into the crowd, and luckily no one was killed. There was a couple injuries. But with the Canadian healthcare system, who knows? But that there was a threat today because they have bouncy castles outside of Parliament for the kids. Like they're playing hockey in the streets. They have hay bales there for kids to play on. And the Ottawa police is like, oh, us coming in with force basically is difficult when there's so many kids, as if they're going to take the kids away. Like, oh, buddy, but anyways, they are standing firm, and every province of Canada is putting forward, I forget how I wrote this down, that each of the provinces in Canada are outlining ways to get rid of restrictions. So they've, as of today, I believe it's been 11 days, will be more by the weekend, but that they've only been there for that long, and already things are being changed in Canada. There's similar convoys in New Zealand, which are awesome. Also, shout out to Mari, because there was a political hit piece about her this week. So her government paid for a hit piece against her. She should ask for a refund. But talking about things in the yarn world and racism and the rest of it. But anyways, so I
missed that one. I'll have to get a link for everybody so we can all catch up on that, because that's interesting.
It's 10 minutes of your life you'll never get back. But anyway, part of the piece was a hit on a couple of the ladies who are part of the Voices for Freedom in New Zealand, who are also one's a knitter and one's a crocheter, so that they were connecting that in with, look at all these horrible people together. And I'm like, look at all the best. It's like everybody I love, and you're just crapping all over them. But that's what, government media does. So we know to watch out for that.
Right. And I think a lot of people are wising up to it. I mean, anytime a piece comes out about somebody who's really scathing, I'm like, I need to get more information on this, because I wonder why this is so mean to them.
Right. I wonder what happens if I look at the original sources. Oh, wait, who's really in the wrong here?
Right. Well, go figure.
But yeah, the Canadians are doing a lot. England is cutting some of their regulations a month before they said they would.
Cool.
So yeah, lots of good things are happening, but it's all happening at once.
Yeah. Well, I think after this last surge, I guess we'll get into this now. After this last surge, people are realizing that this isn't maybe what we were told it was. I mean, like a lot of people wised up to that beforehand, right. But after Omicron, a lot of people really are seeing that it's not what we were told. And I meant to send you the graphic, Anne, but I saw this graphic that was like, you know, when you say that most people are okay, what you're saying is it's okay for a small percentage to die. And, you know, when you say that I will wear a mask and you do what you feel comfortable with, that's saying that you don't care about other people. And it goes back to that fundamental difference between conservatives and more liberal people. And I don't think, if I know I'm contagious and I'm going out and not protecting people for myself, I don't think that's correct. I think that you should stay home or you should mask or whatever the situation calls for, right? But you cannot expect me to not live my life.
It's the difference between, with different medical things, that it used to be, okay, yeah, I'm sick, I'll stay home. But if I have a bit of a cough, you know, for example, I'm not going to stay home from work for every little thing. And it's the idea now that is so connected in so many people's minds that our medical choices are government choices, that if you're sick, it's a government enforcement, is really scary and really bizarre. And there is a story out of England that it was a little bit of a controversy. And it was a lady who, she was actually having a meeting with a couple of fathers whose daughters had committed suicide during lockdown. And she got a message during the meeting that her COVID test came back and she just tested positive. And she said, she mentioned this at the meeting and she said, basically, are you comfortable continuing? And they said, yes. But anyways, if they were comfortable continuing with the meeting. And they said yes, and they continued talking to her about it. And everyone was condemning her, saying, you know, the instant you know that you had COVID, you should have left the room. You should have done this and that, and everybody should have quarantined. But it's showing what has happened, that this is the real cost of all of the lockdowns and all of the quarantining and everything else, has been, you know, the depression and the death of these kids. And everyone is still complaining that she is the worst one for this, for not immediately following the directives that have harmed people, right, and not work to contain the virus.
Yeah, exactly. I saw a study actually that said that wearing a cloth mask made you 2% less likely to spread it or get it or something. 2%. We have done this to our kids and we're in this situation now where we've got all these people who've been locked in nursing homes for years. Families can't visit. We've got kids who are so far behind on their learning. We have kids that are, you know, first grade that can't read, that can't pronounce things properly.
Yes, we have vitamins have been through the roof.
Yep. We have the kids that have mental health issues that the isolation has exacerbated. You know, maybe these kids already had the mental health issues, but is it, so if we save one person from COVID, is it worth it? Are these stringent things worth it to have 10 people commit suicide because they've been locked up for 2 years? Like, yeah, so COVID deaths, ooh, big deal. They're down.
Screenings and, you know, delayed surgeries and things that have been considered, oh, well, that's not important at all, like a hip replacement or a knee replacement, and people living.
Well, I have a genetic condition that causes me to be more predisposed to cancers. I am supposed to get a colonoscopy every single year. I have not had one since 2019 because of this. So because I have a family history of a certain kind of cancer that grows very quickly, I could be very ill and not know it yet.
Right.
But that's a risk that they're willing to take. And that's the part that's,
some of you
that's upsetting.
May die, but it is a risk I'm willing to
Well, as long as it's not from COVID, it's okay. Like, that's kind of what we've gotten to in this country. So, you know, all you people who are saying masks, you know, mask and vaccine and this and that, and if you don't care about other people. Okay. Or maybe I care about the people who haven't gotten their mammogram, haven't gotten their colonoscopies, haven't been able to have surgeries that would make their life better. Kids that aren't flourishing because we are keeping them locked up and away from their friends, and it's like brainwashing kids. And so I could list 20 things that have been worse since COVID, but as long as we don't let anybody die from COVID, we're fine. We are not
even stopping
people that are not compassionate, not even a little bit, but we are realistic. And the things that the government has been asking us to do is just not logical. Okay, so ready? My husband, sometimes I wonder why I married him, because the things he said, he makes me feel like I'm on another planet. So I come out yesterday, he's watching the news, and he says to me, "It's Hokel Hog Day." And I'm like, "What in the world is a Hokel Hog?" He goes, "It's the day where Kathy Hochul comes out of her hole and looks around to see if she sees her shadow. And if she does, we have 6 more months of mask mandates." He's such a weirdo, but it's kind of true.
Pretty much.
So the state is today, Thursday, the 10th of February. Masks are no longer necessary in businesses. You know, like the last time, people can request that you wear them in their business, but the mandate's over. The mandate that never was is over because it was never actually written down anywhere, but that doesn't matter. But she is extending the school mandate because, as we know, children are the least likely to get it. So let's make sure that they have it.
Most likely to suffer from it. Yeah.
And the person that leads the teachers union said, we will not stop mask. It's not acceptable to stop masking the kids until transmission is 0. Okay. Anybody who has kids knows that there is no 0 transmission. I think anybody with a brain knows that there's no 0 transmission. My kids would go to school. They would come home. They'd give me hugs and kisses. We would all have a cold. Mm-hmm. Like, it's how it is. Like, I was good friends with the secretary when they went to school. And I'd be talking to her and she'd be like, "Hey, did you hear that there's a stomach bug going around the first grade? You know, just so you know." And I'm like, "All right, thanks." Because that's what happens. And now we have a generation that has no immune system because we've been sanitizing and masking for 2 years. And so, you know, something that would have been a sniffle nose that they got over. What, Ann?
No, kids are little disease factories. There's no getting around that.
Disgusting. They're disgusting. But I got to tell you, like, knock on wood, my kids were always good because they had good immune systems. They would go to church. They would go to the stores. They would go everywhere. And so, you know, for the most part, they would get a sniffle or a stomach bug, and 2 days later, they'd be fine. Now we have these kids that don't have any immune systems who, you know, you get them around another group of kids, and instead of it being 2 days, it's 2 weeks because their body isn't used to it. They have no immunity to anything. It's just ridiculous, the whole freaking thing. Mm-hmm. You know, their big thing is follow the science, follow the science. Well, the science says that masks make you 2% safer and that kids are like 1% chance of getting the virus or something. So what part of the science is showing us that we should mask our kids? Yeah. Like, for real. But then I heard something, and I hadn't thought of this, and maybe you guys have, but I try to be positive kind of person. And so I don't really dwell on things that are upsetting to me. So it never even crossed my mind. But okay, we have 64% of people in New York State fully vaccinated. So what happens when those people are due for boosters and they see all the shit that's going on and they decide not to get a booster because having them didn't do anything for you anyway? So what's that going to mean? Is that going to mean we're going to go back to zero and they're going to feel like they can mask us again and segregate us and coerce people to get the vaccine so they can keep their job? I mean, what is going to happen? Got nothing. But it's something I hadn't even considered. But is it like, if it's like the flu shot, are they gonna go around making everybody get it again? Because think about it, it rolled out like around this time last year. So if you got your vaccine, you're due for a new one. What's that mean? I don't know, man. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that, do you think that they're lifting the vaccine mandates, not the vaccine mandates, excuse me. Do you think that they're lifting all of the mask rules now because they're seeing how unfavorably people are responding to it and the midterms are coming up?
It's not impossible.
I think it's a lot of it because I was watching the news this morning and there was a Democrat on there from New York City saying that her and her Democratic friends will vote for anyone but Kathy Hochul. So I think that they must be hearing these things saying, what am I going to do, you know? But I don't know.
Well, that's one of the things with Gretchen Whitmer too, that it's like, well, she hasn't done anything crazy lately, but I think during the midterm, she's up for re-election. So laying low. Please don't remember when I told you all you couldn't buy certain items in the store and actually had them taped off, like gardening in the summer.
I forgot she did that.
Yeah.
Oh, what a piece of crap.
I know. They did it in Wales too. Wales is crazy. But also Whitmer is crazy.
No, and that's the thing. I see, and I don't remember what other states have done because I'm up to my eyeballs in the crap that's happened here in New York. But if you are in one of those other states, please don't forget what your people have done to you because they are coming up for re-election and they don't want you to remember. So now is the time. Now's the time to remind all your friends. Hey, remember when COVID started and Whitmer didn't let us buy any gardening supplies? And even though we were allowed to go into Walmart, we couldn't buy them, even though they were in the store on the shelves. Like remind your friends of that because that's important. And it has been 2 years.
Yeah. So. And, okay. So on one hand, all of the midterms is kind of annoying because, I mean, on the one hand, you're concerned about voting in new rhinos. Like, that's great. So we can all get excited and put in rhinos. But at the same time, it's people like, oh, well, do elections matter? It's the possibility of doing good or the certainty of it going badly. And we've seen how it's going when it's going badly. And also, I mean, looking at Virginia with Governor Youngkin, that they're doing a lot of good work there. And who would have thought Virginia? Who would have thought Canada? That there's a lot of places where it's like, oh, well, nothing can happen here. We're writing them off. And lots of good things can come from them. So I, don't discount it at all of, oh, well, my state is this, my area is that, it's impossible. No. And there's nothing like trying for getting something done. But also that it's not without work, but it is something that can be done to make all of our areas better. And the more that we work on a local level, the more that, our individual counties and states, I don't know. And this is a little back to the article with Mari, though, that whenever I sit here and I'm like, well, the whole knitting wars thing, in the grand scheme of things, is it really that important? The other side is playing to win and they're deadly serious about it. It is important. And
Yes.
like, oh, well, are my city council members, is the school board that important? Are my state senators that important? No, the other side is, you know, Democrat side, they are serious. It's important. They're not only going to get their guys in, but they are going to pressure the candidates to have the most radical agenda that they want to put through. They don't want moderates. They don't want play nice with the other team players. They want people who are going to advance what they want to be done. And we're sitting there as conservatives. It's like, oh, well, you know, I'd really like some low taxes, but I don't know. I just want everyone to get along. No, that's not what we're doing here. We are so far beyond that.
Yeah, it's gotten to the point where you can't just be like, oh, well, you know, it's okay. No, we have to fight for every spot. And if we have a Republican in there or a conservative that's not doing what they're supposed to, tell them, because they need to know that you don't like it.
Right.
Because they need to know that they can't just keep coasting along. I think that we've gotten this so into this like us versus them mentality, but it's not really that anymore. I don't want to be like super dramatic, be like it's good versus evil, but it is. It's either you have this ideology or you have this one, and they don't really go together. So if you want to live in a place that's not, you know, Adele being called out because she said that she was proud to be a female singer,
right,
a female entertainer, and a woman, and people are now calling her a TERF. If you don't want to live in that world where you can't be proud to be who you are, then you need to start paying attention, because nothing she said was aimed at trans people or aimed at, you know, anybody else. She just said, because the British awards or whatever she was winning.
Yeah, the award show, it was a, you know, non-gendered award. And
right. They did away with best male and best female performer, and they just had best, which is cool if she won it, because
or Ed Sheeran, how you pronounce it?
Ed Sheeran?
They gave him a, you know, glad you're here trophy. And then they gave the award to Adele.
That's funny. I didn't know about it. I just read the part about Adele. But, you know, she said, I understand why you chose to do it this way. She said, but I am proud to be a woman. I am proud to be a female entertainer. I am proud of the others who are like me. And now they're like losing their shit. And if you don't like that, if you are a woman, or you want your kid to be able to grow up and say, I'm a woman and I'm happy to be a woman, and or I'm a man and I'm going to be a strong man,
right, then
you need to start caring. It's important.
Right. Or even, you know, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and I don't have, this is a thing that we've said before, but with transgenderism, that, you know, that you don't need, and, you know, I'm a woman, I'm a man, and I don't need to change my gender to fit a stereotype. That because I am not within a narrow bound of what a man or a woman is, therefore I must change something about my sexuality. Like there's many ways to be both men and women, and we can be happy in them. That it's I am who I am, and I don't have to follow your ideology because of it. Is a very...
And I know people who watch, not our general viewers, but people who may watch this who don't agree with us are going to say, oh, you're anti-trans. I don't care. I do not care what you choose to do in your personal life. I care when you try to force it on everyone else. Right. That's the issue. I swear to God, I'm becoming more libertarian by the day. I just want to be in my house. I want to be happy. You guys do whatever you want to do out there. Like, leave me alone.
Look, if you're trans, good for you. If you're an adult, this is your choice. You're going to do this. I don't think that means you have any less human rights. I don't think that means you have any less rights before the law, which is the most important part when we talk about any various rights. It is justice still blind? And in a lot of cases, she isn't anymore, and she needs to be. That no matter who you are, no matter what you look like, that in the eyes of the law, you're all equal. That is the most important thing. But I don't believe you have any other less rights, or any less right, or that people shouldn't respect you as a human being. What I am saying is that you have right to be respected as a human being, but you don't get to change the rules just for you, which
Very well said.
A little harsh, was like, no, good for you. I hope you have a great life. But that one of the top recording artists of the world, that she's not allowed to say that she's proud of being a woman anymore because of a small segment of the population, that is not right. And I don't think it takes any rights away from anyone else either. I'm proud to be a woman doesn't hurt anyone. You be you. And
you be you and do whatever you want. And that's why people are different. You know, I'm married to an alpha male. Not everybody wants an alpha male. That's fine. Go find somebody else for yourself. It's the fact that we all just have to conform and agree is really irritating.
Right. And that the definitions on all of the words have to change now. And you have to be up to it. Well, like the whole Kiev thing. It's like, when did we change how we spell a world capital?
I didn't even hear about that one. Who changed that?
I believe it was in the New York Times, but it's in a major, like a couple major newspapers that it's spelled KY. Yeah, I don't know. It's a stupid way to spell it. The Ukrainians don't spell it that way. They don't pronounce it that way. You know, it's Kiev, it's Kabul or Kabul, whichever one. I always get them confused between how we used to pronounce it. And even, you know, Beijing, that Beijing was what the Chinese, I think we've said this before, is what the Chinese call their capital. And they actually lobbied other newspapers and news outlets around the world that the English world used to call it Peking. And they had to change it. So it's like, I don't know, stupid commie Peking games. It's like, change it back.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, everything is dumb. But if you want to read a non-woke book, check out Cody Schlegel's Odyssey Tale. It is a story that is fun and adventure and mythology and fictional characters, and anybody you want to see in a story makes an appearance. And I've gotten feedback from some of our followers who have read it, who said that they're really enjoying it. So if you've been thinking about it, you know, check out Cody Schlegel's book, Odyssey Tale. It's available on Amazon. And, you know, remember, make beautiful things, even if it's an acrylic checkerboard square. Make something that is happy. And you can join the knit-alongs that are going on. There's the Unity KCAL that Cedar Hill Farms is putting out. There's the Two Sisters and Some Yarn Make-Along, which is going on. And there's the Chicken Lady Fiber Arts Q1 Make-Along, or KCAL. I think it's a KCAL. But either way, so check those out because people are sharing beautiful items. They're having fun. They're making things. And if you want to join, you can always get some Chicken Lady yarn. Use the code 20 PIK20.
No, PIK Valentine 20. And it's Valentine, not Valentine's. We checked.
We sure did. Yeah. PIK Valentine 20 for 20% off your order. You can get some fabulous colors from her and make something happy. And as doom and gloom as Anna and I have been the past couple of weeks, I actually think that people are waking up. It does seem like there's some light. Just every time there's like a new little light, is like 6 other things happen and kind of dim it. But I think it's happening. So don't let us get you down.
Right. And anyway, like I said, I've been watching clips from the Canadian truckers, and there's this one lady saying that crime is down on the streets, the garbage is clean up, homeless people are being fed, and, you know, like people are getting taken care of because there's so many people. I'm like, oh, Canada, put something in my eye. So there are good things happening.
There are, for sure. And make sure you check us out. We are on YouTube and Rumble. We're on Telegram, Instagram, MeWe, Parlor. Is Parlor still a thing?
I'm not on Parlor. I mean, like I am on Parlor, but I'm not on Parlor. But.
Gab, Vero, Getter, Facebook, Instagram. I think I hit them all. I don't know. But you can find us wherever you enjoy your social media. We at least have a presence. It doesn't necessarily mean we're there, but.
And patterns on Galley Life for You and Etsy and Love Crafts, and as also a part of Chicken Lady's knit along. So, you know, if you want some extra points there, you can use one of our patterns.
Yep. So make sure you make something pretty. And if you feel so inclined, tag us on Instagram so we can see what you guys are making. Because we love, I don't have enough knits in my feed, honestly. I have too much politics and not enough knitting. So tag me so I can see what you guys are making. And we will see you next week. All right?
All right. See you all.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.